The daunting problem of Samantha Bell. I'm sure there's always room for friends in this world. That's what I said to Tracy White as we made our way through the last rows of the college auditorium. I was answering a very somber question. You see, Tracy and I used to be close friends, very close friends. But that was before the accident, and now she was a cheerleader for the school's popular football team, and this brought with it all types of shallow amenities. Basically, I was just rejected by a girl I knew my whole life, the same girl I took to our high school prom. Yet now, she was embarrassed to be even seen with me. Now, she never admitted that, but it was all too clear. I have been crippled for a while now, and I could kind of tell these things. That said, I went home to think. I needed to think. I was soon moving to a small town, and my life was sure to be even more difficult. You see, we had it hard since my father died. I still, sort of feel like I killed him, being as how we was sent. Oh my gosh, when I think about it, how he was sent to pick me up from school when that truck hit us. Sometimes when the night is calm, I wonder about him, and sometimes I feel like I could just see his face hovering above the bedroom shadows. It still chokes me up. Whatever the case, he's gone now, and Mom and me, we'll just have to do our best without him. Still, I really miss him. Danny, don't get too interested in that old shack of a house, Mom said. No one's there now except some old spinster and her old disabled daughter. Suddenly, Mom seemed to get embarrassed. She caught herself saying the D word, disabled, a word I loathed, for it was such an unjust term to describe people like me. She still gulped and smiled. I mean, Grandma used to tell me stories about the old bat that lived across the street, she explained. Poor old thing. She lost all of her children when she was young. Miscarried births, from what I was told. Heavy drinker of absinthe, too. Well, that's what your grandma used to say. She had lots of stories like that. Really? Like what? I asked. Well, seems the old crow that owns that place locked up her daughter in the house. The surviving daughter had some rather, I don't know, daunting problems of sorts. Some say they never seen her go into town. Like not even once. She'd be about 23 now, about your age, I suppose, Mom said with that witty smile of hers. Nighttime had fallen, and Mom went upstairs to get some much-needed rest. However, I was still uneasy for some reason, and I kept thinking about that bright red house across the field from us. So, I went to my new room and began to unpack some more stuff, when I barely noticed an old wooden box in the corner of the room. It was ragged and musty, and when I opened it, I found a wealth of old photos and letters from Grandma. Immediately, I wanted to go upstairs and wake up Mom, but she was fast asleep. I couldn't actually hear her, but I could kind of feel her rhythmic snoring all the way down the hall. It was then that I took the time to read some of Grandma's old letters, and what an intriguing little opera it was. Apparently she had been a close friend with Marina Bell, the owner of that spooky neighbor's home, and when the neighbors were weird, the town talked. But when Grandma got too close to her daughter, Marina turned against her and foiled their friendship. I found this odd. I mean, why would two old ladies who had been friends for years suddenly cut off their friendship just because Grandma wanted to help her friend's child? It didn't make any sense, and after hours of restlessness, I decided to take a bit of a risky stroll myself. That stroll would be through the field of uncut grass for a better look at that infamous red house. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't easy. I pushed away long stalks of tall grass away with my flashlight, and when I rolled my wheelchair to the backside of that red house, I was actually out of breath. I took the time to recuperate, but when I seen a really thin shadow. I mean, it was of a young woman sprinting back and forth on the back porch of her house. She was just a silhouette from the distance I was at, but she seemed to be, nervous and extremely shy. I rolled up closer to the porch, and the thin girl leapt over the rickety railing and ducked in through a narrow cracked hole. It led into the shed behind the house. Wow, what strange behavior, I thought. She seemed to act more like a scared animal than a young woman, and indeed by this time I figured it must be Samantha Bell, Marina's only living daughter. I rolled my wheelchair expertly through the high, tall grass and then positioned myself just outside that huge, eerie crack. So I could hear her breathing in the darkness therein, though all I could see in the wan moonlight was the decrepit wood hole and something shifting, shadowy, deep inside. Still, I called out to her. Hey, listen, I didn't mean to scare you, but I just moved next door to you and, well, I know it's late, but I heard some noise and I figured I'd check it out. By the way, I'm Danny Doyle. I live with my mom across the field from you, I explained with some sense of anticipation. But I didn't get an answer. Not right away. Instead, I saw her peeking at me through that arcane little crack. Hey, what's wrong with you? Why did you put wheels on that chair? She asked in an ominously sultry voice. I was shocked. I mean, was she joking? Hadn't she ever seen a wheelchair before? I explained anyway, suddenly realizing that this girl had been mentioned as being handicapped or disabled, as my mother often cited. It occurred to me then that she could be mentally stunted or half blind or half deaf. Who knows? I didn't know. Well, this is my wheelchair. It's got wheels on it, on a chair, and it helps me get around like other people, I said, feeling rather silly that I actually had to explain the obvious. Still, she just looked at me with huge, huge, glazed eyes. Another long pause. Then she asked a more valid question. So, you're not like the others, are you? That was an odd thing to say. Yeah, sure. I mean, you could say that. I mean, I can't walk on my legs anymore. They were crushed in an accident. Hey, listen, where's your mom? She didn't answer. All she did was stick her hand out of the shed and pointed toward a very obvious tombstone. It standed tilted in the backyard. What? Your mom's buried in the backyard? I snapped. Why? She wanted it that way. It was a simple answer, but now I was far too curious and wanted to see just what type of so-called disability this poor girl had, so I moved closer to the rustic shed. Listen, I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm not dangerous, really. You can come out of that hole. I won't bite, I promise. Why not? She answered. Sometimes I do if they get too close again, she whispered through the crack. There was an obvious emphasis on the word they, but I didn't want to delve into that. It was time for a show of trust. So I moved my wheelchair to a wide tree stump, and then I hoisted myself in the chair. I then let her watch me crawl and struggle through the tall grass for some distance to sit on that tall tree stump. Apparently this did the trick. She actually could see now that I couldn't walk. And I heard her breathing get heavier with concern, and she finally popped her head out to watch me crawl. Now she seemed to understand. So you're different too, she asked with a sense of excitement, as if a gleeful child had suddenly discovered a new toy. Yep, I guess we're strangers and all, but because of our conditions, we're kindred spirits, I joked. Half-heartedly? Half-heartedly? I never heard of that before, she said. But Samantha didn't seem to get the joke. Still, she finally revealed herself, and what I saw nearly made me fall off the tree stump. There, standing before me, was a young woman with really wide eyes, bigger and wider than I've ever seen any human ever have. Her mouth was lined with pointy teeth in the front, and her chest sported 2 pairs of breasts, which were propped up by her soiled and tattered garment. I don't know, a kind of makeshift blouse of sorts. I didn't know what to say. I then recalled how my mom told me of Marina's many miscarriages and how her heavy alcoholic beverages were the cause for her troubles. It was all clear now. The daughter was the only one who had survived, but she was clearly born deformed. Still, with her smile growing ever wider and with the sounds of crickets serenading this new encounter, I kept my composure. Do you want to be my friend? She asked. I never had a friend except for my mother. My mind was telling me I should turn and leave her right then and there, but there was something about her that didn't seem as spooky as she looked. Something sad and needing. Something good. I cleared my trembling voice and held out my hand. And with the familiar sentence, but this time with genuine meaning, I said, I'm sure there's always room for new friends in this world. The end.